Hello, and welcome to Comics in Quarantine, Solving Problems. I'm Stephen Allen.
And I'm Eric McElroy. Hello.
And we're back, so it's another Tuesday night. If you've never watched one of these before, welcome. You get half an hour of entertainment. As I said earlier on social media, we try and laugh at the news, because if you don't, you cry at the news. And that's just a sad picture of someone weeping watching Hugh Edwards. And no one needs to see that, so I don't do that in this show. I save that for my own personal stuff. Thank you. Nice.
I love Hugh.
Hugh's the daddy when it comes to news stuff. So are you doing all right, Eric? You keeping well?
I'm doing well. I'm feel like I'm on top of the news because there's nothing else to do. We used to gig in the real world. We used to perform in front of live people, and now we don't. So now we just consume the news and get to go retail shopping in 3 weeks.
Yeah, and there's only one story in town, which actually makes it so much easier to pay attention to the news. So we'll be dealing with all that. If you've got any comments for us as well, you can get in touch. Already some messages are coming in. James says Toronto is here.
Hey, Toronto. Hey, James. How you doing? Good to hear. Nice to know you're there. Yeah. Look at that, Canada. I usually take the piss out of Canada, but today, Canada.
Yeah.
Go, girl.
Don't take the piss out of Canada just for today's show, because we're also asking for people to chuck some money at our Ko-fi link down the bottom.
Yes, love Canada.
Mike says, looking forward to this. Hope your eyesight is okay. How could I check my eyesight? What possibly could I do to try and work out whether I can see or not? Interesting. I'm sure we'll end up covering that. If you're watching on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, all of these things, wherever you are, message, and we should be able to get some of those messages. And
don't forget, we're on LinkedIn.
We've managed to sort it so that this show is streamed in loads of different platforms. We're on Twitch and places like that. And I've not told you, Eric, I've added us to some. There's a Japanese site that's now watching us now as well.
Is that Pornhub?
There's some interesting content on that site. So some people are going to be very shocked as to why two middle-aged men in suits. Oh, and by the way, beard update. Look at this.
Ooh, nice. Yeah, I actually didn't shave today. I've got a little bit of a tickle myself.
I didn't shave today either. I've worked out, because my grey patches, it's where I do all my thinking.
Those are tiny patches.
Yeah, that's about right. I like the fact that my facial hair befits the emotional breakdown I'm having. Shaving wasn't for me.
No.
So, if you'd like to get in touch, you can keep it all working out. How many fingers am I holding up, says Chris. Oh, dear. Ooh. Is that because of the Japanese site or something else? So keep the messages coming through. We'll deal with those, and we'll deal with today's news. Do you want to take the lead there, Eric?
That's right. Well, the big news, if you're in the UK, there's nothing bigger than this. And so, James, I'm going to explain this just for you specifically. But also, I think it's very nice for someone with my accent as an American to explain the biggest news story in Britain to most of our British audience. And that is Dominic Cummings. And he did not break lockdown rules. Now you're thinking, well, who is this guy, Dominic Cummings? And that is what many of us are thinking. But he is a strategic advisor to Boris Johnson. And he is Boris's right, left hand, and other parts as well. And if you haven't followed this closely, basically at the peak of the coronavirus, Cummings' wife was unwell, and it looked like she might have COVID-19. He thought he might be sick as well. And so he thought, as he told us on a press conference on Sunday, that the thing to do is he was, quote, about to be incapacitated, which is a fantastic feeling, Steve. I don't know if you've ever felt about to be incapacitated.
I feel it now.
I've had a few drinks on the night. I'm like, one more, and I am about to be incapacitated. And that is not the time you're supposed to drive, which is what he did after going back into work, after he'd already been exposed to someone. But anyway, he got in his car and did what he wasn't supposed to do in the middle of the lockdown and drove 250 miles to Durham to stay at near his parents' house. He said he didn't stay with them, which would have been breaking the rules even more. So it was debatable whether or not this was okay. He came out as a very sympathetic character, I thought, at this press conference where he said that he was just trying to take care of his child. But when he felt better, did you think that was he sympathetic to what you feel?
I felt he was laying that on quite a bit. It was kind of, I was just thinking about the wife and the kids, and some people were being mean to me in the press, and I was worried about people being outside in the street, so I had to leave, but come back 15 days later when people started saying nice things about you. I don't think that happened.
I mean, considering the caricature that this guy plays in British politics is essentially he's the Steve Bannon of British politics.
Yeah.
And Steve Bannon doesn't worry about anybody. I don't know how many kids the guy has, but he does not give a shit about any of them. And allegedly, I don't want to get sued. But what Cummings did next is what has made this story brilliant. Because not only did he break lockdown, but then he thought, you know what? I need to get back to work because I'm instrumental with the British government. I'm going to drive my family back, and I'm worried about getting on the A1. Now, Steve, you and I have both gigged up and down the country. I worry every time I get on the A1. I think you lived up that way, didn't you, at one stage off the A1?
Yeah.
Was it Stevenage?
Stevenage, yeah. Junction
back
8.
in the day. Back in the day. So we know how dangerous that is in general when you haven't been taken with the deadly virus. However, he thought, well, I'm not sure. I don't think I can do this big drive, 250 miles. The best thing for me to do to see if I can drive is to drive 30 miles each way to another town to test my vision.
Brilliant.
And the best way to test my vision as well, when I'm not sure if I should be driving, is to put my wife, who's been sick, and my 4-year-old child in the car with me. Now, the thing is, the story just keeps getting more and more interesting. Today, he allegedly rewrote a blog. She was writing blogs, his wife, that made it sound like they were in London. It's just like little tidbits. Pretty soon, Downing Street is going to be telling us that, we didn't need to worry about him driving 250 miles and stopping anywhere to expose anyone else, like maybe to use the toilet, because they were driving a camper van and they had a toilet. And we don't have to worry about them stopping anywhere along the way to have gotten food because the camper van had an allotment on top. They were growing their own vegetables as they went down the road. And then we're going to find out, yes, when he was driving and you're saying, well, he was testing his vision, actually the windscreen of the camper van was a prescription windscreen. So he was fine.
It's amazing, isn't it, that idea of how do I know that I have the ability to drive? Let's drive to find out. It's the same level of stupidity that lets people who think they can fly try it from buildings rather than the ground. Yeah. So why test it in the worst place possible? Why not go for a quick walk and see how you do and slowly build up? Try bikes. There are so many things. One thing I did notice in terms of the excuses, you're right, they've been absolutely brilliant. I do want to chuck this in briefly. I expected it to get to the stage where Dominic Cummings' social media would have had his Strava screenshot on there. It would have been, just went for a really long run. That's probably what it is.
I mean, in American or Canadian terms, driving that distance is actually like driving a long ways. If James is watching from Canada, he's like 250 miles. That's my daily commute to work each way. But here in this country, because of the poor infrastructure, that's a long ways. But I digress. The story has had some good things. One was this headline that was on the front page of the Times yesterday. This is from their website, though. We've got the headline here. And this is tension and tumescence as the mob scented blood. Now, did you know that word? Tumescence?
I don't say it's a hard tumescence. Yeah.
That's what I said. I had to Google that. Did you know what it meant before this story came up?
I'd come across that as a verb.
You've come across it, have you? Well, it is. We've got the definition here, thanks to Wikipedia. Tumescence is the quality or state of being tumescent, swollen, vascular, erectile, sexual excitement. I mean, I don't know about you, but this story's made me tumescent.
Has it?
Well, a little bit. It's been very exciting. I think they were basically calling him a big penis. But I figure, you know what? Lockdown's been pretty bad. This crisis has been pretty bad. But the good thing is, I've learned a new word from my cop.
You've learned a new word, but it's a slightly rude word, and that's why it's a good word. In terms of rude words with definitions, I love this down the bottom where it says, the tumescent sexual organ in men is the penis, and in women it's the clitoris or other parts of the genitalia like vestibular bulbs. And I don't know if you know, but I think vestibular bulbs is when you plant daffodils in your porch.
I love a good vestibular bulb. It's my favorite channel on Pornhub.
So hopefully that's got James interested in this. Loads of people sending messages about eye tests and things. Anthony says, since Cummings, does that mean that I can now visit my 100-year-old grandfather who lives around the corner? He keeps wanting me to come round for a game of backgammon in his garden. I don't know. It's difficult because Dominic Cummings said that he gets away with it because there's a clause that says these restrictions, you don't have to stick to them if they're not possible. But I think it would have been possible for him to stick to them because he didn't need help when he went to Durham. So in his story, he got to the end of it without needing help. He could have stayed in London. And also driving to a castle was definitely not covered by the restrictions. But of all the things he said in that press briefing, my favourite bit was this. Have a listen to what he said.
I've explained all of the above to the Prime Minister. At some point during the first week when we were both sick and in bed, I mentioned to him what I had done.
He was in bed with the Prime Minister. How is that not the biggest story here? Dominic Cummings, earning the name, is sleeping with Boris Johnson. Sweet mercy.
They have a very tumultuous relationship.
They do.
Does that work?
It's not the word.
Does that work as a thing?
I don't think it is. So the columns that his Mrs. wrote made out that they were in London all the time, but he did a press conference saying that they were up in Durham. And it must be difficult for Dominic Cummings, yes, again, here I am, Mr. Sympathy. It must be difficult for him to try and work out which version of him he's being. The version of him that wants to go to Durham and enjoy some sightseeing. And by the way, testing your eyesight by going sightseeing actually makes sense. It's words. Look it up.
Yeah.
But part of him would be thinking, let's go to Durham. The other part thinking, oh, you've got to agree with the missus and stay down in London. Difficult for him. We've actually got some footage of his decision-making process. Let's have a look. So I will admit, fair play, because, fair's fair. I was doing the silly voice. But that was actual footage of Dominic Cummings. So
It is remarkable that before he was a strategic advisor, he was an actor and featured in the Lord of the Rings films.
Only half lie. But the thing that everyone's obsessed about is the fact that he said he went to drive to test to see whether he could see or not. I mean, I don't know why the government had a problem hitting its testing targets when testing involved going for a bit of a drive. I didn't know. I didn't realise that since the start of this whole lockdown thing, this would have been happening to some people who'd been learning to drive.
Well, Mr. Allen, that concludes your driving test. You passed the reversing around the corner, the emergency stop, 3-point turn. Congratulations. You don't have COVID-19.
Acting.
BAFTA. Where's our BAFTA?
Thank you very much for keep the messages coming through. Chris just says vestibular bulbs. Indeed.
That's our catchphrase. I think Chris actually might have made a donation as well, or Chris did. We'll give you credit for it, Chris. So thank you very much for that. If anybody does appreciate what we're doing, again, we would have been driving up and down the A1 to earn our living, but we cannot at the moment. So if you're enjoying what you're seeing or hearing or whatever it is, and you'd like to help us work on our tumescence, please, you can buy us a coffee because it's feeling a little, I need something to cream or something for that.
Cream in your coffee. Oh, you're meant to drink it. Chris also says method. You're right, method acting. Method. Mark says, did he speak to Michael Gove? Do you know what? I probably could have managed to do the same sort of, if I could do either impression, it could have worked. Keep the messages coming through. Yeah, and if you'd like to slap a coffee in our direction, the link is at the bottom.
It's all there.
So normally, Eric, it's you that does the Trump news, but right, I've got some Trump news, and it starts out positive because we're talking about cures. Now, by the way, it was only a little bit earlier that we did hear. This was the latest piece of update that there's the biggest step forward since the crisis began. NHS is going to be using this old Ebola drug, and I don't want to seem ungrateful, but doesn't it seem like they're just going through the hand-me-downs, the leftovers? They're kind of like, yeah, I had some cure. Do you want to try this cure? It's like if you don't have time to order a fancy celebration cake and you just take whatever was left over by someone in the shop. You're like, oh, it says happy birthday and it's for a wedding. It'll be right. So I don't like the idea of these hand-me-down cures. The most famous one was hydroxychloroquine.
Oh, yeah.
Latest on that. The World Health Organization has halted trials over safety fears. Apparently, they were doing some research, and some people who were taking it were showing counterindications, I believe they call it, negative impacts of the drugs. Some of them were not looking well. There was issues with obesity. There was problems with like brain fuddle, impacting their cognitive reasoning. Here's the guy. And so that means, because he's still on it.
Yeah.
The World Health Organization, they're saying no, and he's going, I'm having a slice of this. And
I'm just glad you didn't show a picture of me for the obesity side, so thanks for that, Steve.
Could have been. There's a lovely clip. As much as everyone's talking about Dominic Cummings, let's not let this clip go past, of Donald Trump talking about how healthy he is because he's taking hydroxychloroquine. Let's have a look.
Still here. I'm still here. And I tested very positively in another sense. So this morning, I tested positively toward negative, right? So, no, I tested perfectly this morning. Meaning I tested negative.
Have you taken the antibody test yet?
But that's the way of saying it. Positively toward the negative.
Oh, man alive. He's just the biggest idiot ever. It's amazing. I feel sorry for anyone trying to teach maths right now, because that is the worst example of how you have to deal with positives and negatives during multiplication. I'm positive that I'm negative about being not positive because I am also not negative about being positive about being... What an idiot. And look, that's the kind of mental reasoning that means he is the worst person to give you this kind of phone call. Big D, hello. How you doing? Haven't heard from you in ages. Yeah, I've not seen you since that night. Of course I haven't forgotten. How could I? So, how are things? Oh no, have you got the results back? So do I need to get tested? But you just said you're positive. Well, which is it? Are you positive or are you negative? Are you sure? Stop saying positive. You could have said yes or no to that one. Donald, this is really, really bad news. But I want to be negative. Oh no, I see you meant mood. Okay. So yeah, true, based on a true story.
2 BAFTAs for that.
Acting.
You're acting the shit out of this episode. That was great. Did you get a check for $130,000?
No, but I should have got myself some Stormy Daniels action. Sweet.
Yeah.
So yeah, look, hey, he's your home country's leader. What can you say?
Yep, he is. And I mean, the sad thing is in the States. I think today it's happened. We were just getting close to it, and we've hit 100,000 deaths that are confirmed from COVID-19. It was also Memorial Day in America. It was a bank holiday on Monday for us, where we celebrate a remembrance to people who've served. And so it was very much a reflective day. Look at the number of deaths, more than in Vietnam, more than the Korean War. And Donald Trump is our president. This time we rally around the flag, and this is where he was this weekend. Boy, oh boy, oh boy. There he is. President Tumescence.
But to be fair, he was rallying around a flag, the one they stick in the hole.
Yes, that's true. I just wish they'd stick it in a different hole.
In his vestibular bulbs.
Yes, in his vestibular bulbs. Bless him. So,
before we move on too far, Mike Monera says, vestibular bulbs is a great name for a band. Definitely. It's the catchphrase of the show. James wants to know if Donald Trump grabbed me by the beard.
Ooh, it's not quite that long. And you're shaved everywhere else, is that right?
That's right.
The full radio voice there, Jesus.
And Chris got some more messages to do. I got Anacita says, great Gollum impression. Andy Serkis should be worried. Do you know? I don't think he needs to be too stressed. The amount of time it took me to do that one scene. And Chris says that the support act for vestibular bulbs, Shekstolj. I'd buy a ticket for that. Nice. We'll keep the messages coming through.
And also thank you to Sam, who put a little coffee in our corner. So thank you very much for that. We appreciate if you are able to contribute. Obviously, if you're one of those lucky furloughed bastards and not self-employed scum like us, hopefully anything is fine. I mean, if you're in Canada, you guys are loaded in Canada, rich Canadians. But anything you can contribute is appreciated. Otherwise, we're just glad that you're watching. But yeah, I think... obviously there's a lot of bad news with COVID-19, but there's some good news as well. And this headline caught my eye today. Scientists believe that cannabis could prevent and treat coronavirus. Hey, that's not too bad, is it? A team of Canadian scientists, James, there you go. Tell us what you've been up to lately. Believes it has found a strong strains of cannabis that could help prevent or treat the coronavirus infections. One of the researchers quoted was saying, "We were totally stunned at first, and then we were really happy, and then we were really hungry, and then we were really horny." That's what Canadians sound like. It's possible that cannabis could prove a plausible strategy for decreasing disease susceptibility, said the scientist, as well as become a useful and safe addition to the treatment of COVID-19 and an adjunct therapy. And if none of that works, who will care? How about you, Steve? If you knew that was the cure, would you take it?
Look, you know me. I live a clean life. I mean, not in an actual taking showers way anymore, but I live.
Yeah.
I'm what's the word? Abstemious. I live a life of temperance. There you go. There's something to fit into your tongue.
Gonna Google that. Can you be abstemiently tumpancy?
Obstemious. Because this is the problem with it. It's all very well doing that test, and yes, there might be some active ingredients that stop the cells being infected so easily, but the levels you would need might cause other problems. Sure, continue the research, but no, I'm not going to be doing any of the drugs because I worry. I worry that this virus is too clever for us because if it's a respiratory disease and if the cure involves smoking things, it's going to get your lungs. So it's going to make it easier for it to kill you. We know that obesity is linked to the rate of deaths, and therefore you can't have edibles. You can't have things that give you the munchies. This virus is just clever, and you never know when this clever virus, is going to try and get you. Whoopah! Because I'm alert.
Yep, you're alert. Stay alert. That's why to fight the virus, I am staying away from the marijuana, but I have started taking heroin.
Oh, congratulations. Really gets rid of that weight.
It not really too worried about COVID anymore.
You lose the weight and it stops you having the obesity side of this problem.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not stressed. I'm fine.
Yeah, good stuff. We regularly meet at temperance meetings, says Darren. Yeah. Well, I see Darren all the time down the old... we have our temperance meetings down the Bricklayers Arms.
The bricklayers. I remember going to the pub.
And let's have a look. Darren also says, I felt so annoyed I really wanted to punch his smug face through the telly. The problem with these messages is that we don't know when they're coming through. Is that about Dominic Cummings, Donald Trump, or do you not like one of us?
Are we on your? If we're on your telly, though, it doesn't matter if you don't like us. We're just happy to be on the telly.
If you enjoy this show, I've worked out how to do it. You have to just search for like the hashtag CIQSP on the YouTube app, and then you can get us on the actual telly. You can get these big faces on your TV. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
Let's have a look. Other messages coming through. We've got
the problem with naming the show is that we didn't think about those acronyms because it's having to remember that is the hard part.
Yeah. Mark says, let's have a look. Just because you're dressed like an English teacher. I'm using bigger words because I've got this supply teacher vibes coming through. Anthony says, do you think they will give us another grant for self-employed, or do we have to live on what we were given indefinitely? Sorry, that wasn't funny, but it keeps me up at night. Anthony, I totally agree. When the furloughed scheme meant that people who had jobs got extra money, I was like, sweet, where's man? And no one's mentioned it yet, and I don't think Rishi Sunak likes self-employed people. So, no. I think you need to start learning how to fry roadkill. Ooh.
Yep. Or become a cannabis dealer.
Yep. And Jeremy says, let's hope that Alex Jones doesn't get the munchies. Why? Because he will eat your ass.
Yep. That's a callback to episode, 5?
Yeah.
We covered that. It's on YouTube. You can go look at it, which is good that you can subscribe to our channel as well. That's always nice because we have all the shows are uploaded on YouTube and you can watch them back and you can see Steve go into a lot of detail about eating ass.
Yeah. Do you know what? No wonder we're a big hit on those Japanese websites.
Exactly.
So if you'd like to chuck us a coffee, if you've enjoyed it, and if this is the kind of thing where after the gig you'd buy us a drink, buy us a coffee, the link is along the bottom somewhere. Trying to make my hand. There we go. And I also want to say thank you to Keith, who... You can message us through the week. Follow us on Twitter, send us messages. And Keith sent me a link. He lives in Wales, and there was a news story about the lockdown restrictions in Wales. He spotted it on the BBC website. What do the new lockdown rules mean? And the one that he drew my attention to was right down the bottom. What if my feet are killing me? Which reminds me of an old Tommy Cooper joke, but won't do it. It says, you can visit a podiatrist or chiropodist in an emergency as long as social distancing rules are maintained. You've got to be 2 meters apart, and then they can sort out your feet. Now, either that means only really tall people, like Peter Crouch, is the only one who can get his feet sorted out.
Yeah.
Or the chiropodist has got their tweezers or whatever at the end of a big stick. I tried it earlier on, and if you attach like some scissors to a mop, you can kind of get in there. So, don't worry about it. Keith, if you're watching... Go and film it, but go and get yourself sorted out, and let's find out what happens when the Welsh start using their scissors at the end of a big stick.
Yeah. Maybe maybe your legs aren't 2 meters long, but by the time the end of this lockdown is over, my nails will be 2 meters long. But I have to say, this today has been a learning day for me. I've learned about the tumscience, or however you say it. No one knows how to pronounce it properly. It's a mystery. And then the chiropodist thing, that was new to me as well, because I've Googled lots of things today. Let me just tell you, my Google history. Chiropodist, tumscience, vascular.
You should dress more like an English teacher, Maury. Really, dress for the job you want to have the knowledge for. That's the old saying.
And then the words just pour in.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's the Welsh rules. There's another thing I noticed over the weekend. I was sat in a park, and I realised our rules about sitting in a park do not work. Come with me on a logic journey.
Yes.
The rule is you can visit one friend, and you must sit 2 meters apart. If you don't know what 2 meters is, it's one bed, it's 3 fridges, it's one big stick that a Welsh chiropodist use. And so you can have one friend 2 meters away.
Yep.
You can also go out and sit next to a group of people, but you have to be 2 meters away. So you can be 2 meters away from a bunch of strangers, but you can only have one friend. So what I couldn't work out is, if you sit down next to a group of strangers and you get chatting and you get on well, at what point do you have to tell all but one of them to fuck off?
Well, that's just like living in London before COVID-19.
Yeah, I've emailed my local MP, and so far, no response. Poor show, whoever you are. So keep the messages coming through. Everyone's getting upset about getting money for self-employed people on some of the message boards. Darren does say he wants to punch Dom the Dick.
Oh, okay.
Which is it's a better catchphrase than he normally gets. Better nickname. And then let's. I think we've sorted out all the messages there. Okay. If you've got any messages, keep them coming through. And if you'd like to buy us a coffee, the link at the bottom.
And we just had Stephen has just bought us a coffee, so thank you very much. And I think I mentioned Sam already. And I'm trying to figure out. I don't know how I can share this with you, Stephen. But James from Canada has just sent us. I'm going to try and hold this up. A picture of us. Look at this. Hold on. Let's see if I can do this. Oh,
Let me go full screen on you. Let me go
full screen. Oh, hold on. Look at that. That's his living room. Can you see that?
Wow. We're on the telly.
In Canada. I mean, look at that. That makes us international stars. Oh my God, James, I love you.
Yeah. We should do this as a regular thing. If people could please send us pictures during the show of us on their tellies.
Yes,
it won't
definitely.
earn us more money. But
I hope I have permission to tweet that out, James, afterwards, because I don't think there's anything too private in there. Some underpants and a little bit of your tummy and something hanging out. But
it was hanging out that got me.
So thank you. That's brilliant. Send us how you're watching the show, and send us a coffee like Stephen did and other people. That's really appreciated as well. And have we covered your feet? Have we clipped that story?
We've dealt with
nails?
Yeah, we've dealt with all that. The 2 meters.
Reminds me of when I used to work at a beauty school. It's a different story for another day.
You're a beauty school dropout. I'll do the song for you one day.
Yeah, there we go. We'll talk about that later. Another thing that's happened yesterday, and it's coming up tomorrow, which we're going to talk about on Thursday, and I'm very excited about, because tomorrow, we're going to cover this on Thursday, though. We're on at 9 o'clock UK time, Thursday, whatever time it's in Canada, no one knows. SpaceX is launching the first manned mission into space. And it's sponsored by Elon Musk. So it's NASA in coordination with a billionaire. What could possibly go wrong with private companies working in space? Aliens, hello, the movie. Anyway, but of course this week also Richard Branson's Virgin Galactic also sent something up into space, because that's what it's like when you're waiting for one billionaire to send a rocket in space. 2 billionaires come along. It's a classic story. Unfortunately, got the headline here. Branson's story isn't as good news, because Richard Branson's Virgin Orbit rocket test launch failed. But let's be honest, Steve. It's not very surprising. I mean, how many Virgins struggled the first time they tried to launch their rocket?
Yeah,
I remember. Anyway, but yes, essentially, his plan. That's another story. It kind of involves the beauty school. His rocket's a little bit different. It's at the bottom of a jet, and then they drop the rocket off. so it detaches and I don't know if it detached early, probably did. Part of the problem, of course, is that the plane flying the rocket up is called Cosmic Girl. And I was like, why do they call it Cosmic Girl? I saw their pilot. I can see why they took off a little too early there. Yeah, little Barbarella reference there for our older watchers.
The closest thing to a Barbarella story I have, I remember hearing that it was a bit of a raunchy film, and I taped it off of BBC Two. But you know what it's like, you tape things, you miss bits of the film. I missed the first 5 minutes and then watched the rest of the film. I was like, why is everyone saying this is raunchy? This is not raunchy at all. I missed the first 5 minutes. Teenage Steve did not see the first 5 minutes of Barbarella until he was no longer a teenager. Gutted.
Was it better then?
Yeah, probably was, actually, yeah. I tested my eyesight thoroughly by then. Also, I love the fact you brought up the concept of virgins. This is going to go down well on the Japanese stream. Because I was realising this year there would have been, I don't know how many, I'm not trying to run the stats, but however many thousands of people would have lost their virginity this summer, but won't now.
Oh, wow.
Sorry, COVID people, but that's, yeah. I mean, you're not the biggest victims out of everything. As Eric said earlier on, 100,000 people died in America, but loads of people not getting any of that their sex.
Yeah, but those people who've been trapped at home without anything else to do, I'm thinking 9 months from now, I know the wife and I, we won't be having another child.
You've got a garden. Also, the fact that people are trapped at home means that when you go on Pornhub and they talk about stepsister sex, it's just more believable now, and I don't like it. Yeah. It's too much? Is that too much?
Yeah, that was too much. Okay. That was too much.
That's a joke I've had bubbling. I've had that joke bubbling around for a while, and I just never had an opportunity to put it on. There you go.
Yep. Luckily, James from Canada made a donation to the show before you did that joke.
Oh.
So that's why that's why it's key to get your donations in early.
Because I will do a joke like that pretty much every week. There's always one that I just can't work out to get in.
Eat that ass.
Also, before we do anything, so we sorted out with the space thing. You are throwing forward to Thursday's show, though. We're going to do more space news then.
We're gonna cover the rocket. Hopefully, it's a good news story. Obviously, if things go badly, we won't talk about it.
Let me go full screen on me, because for the same thing, Stephen says I can see you both really well. Here we are. Now, see if you can. I'm not sure if it's just like a really nice computer monitor or a screen as well. I've also realised you can see a reflection of my room, so let's cover some of that up. But I tell you what, I didn't realise you get some good detail of the newspapers behind me. I think my webcam might be more focused on them than me.
Well, you are trying to plug the coverage of those.
Yeah.
What is that one? Is that which newspaper do you have behind you today?
The green one's the Chad. Got some nice comments. I've got, actually, because I write a newspaper column in the Chad, and someone posted on it saying that they were surprised I was a comedian. I mean, that never feels nice. But they said because when they met me, I was a quiet man, and I think they meant quiet, or when you can't be sure. Sometimes that's why I grew the beard.
Yeah.
Any more messages? I got some more on Twitter. I think I need to be sorting out.
Oh yeah, I haven't checked Twitter. I think that I've covered all the ones I've got on this end. But thank you very much for those who've contributed to the show. That's brilliant. We're getting to the end of this one, and we are back on Thursday because we are here every Tuesday and Thursday at 9 o'clock in the UK, covering the news. What do you think, Steve? Prediction time. Will Dominic Cummings still be in Whitehall or wherever he is, Downing Street?
Definitely. Yeah, I totally, because they won't back down on this at all. And you know what? I'm not even obsessed with the idea of there needing to be a resignation. It's just an apology. It's just contrition. The idea of the saying that you couldn't have broken the rule because you had good reason, that's not how rules work. You've got me on the rant now. But that moral thing that people learn, he's first day of learning philosophical morality and all that stuff. Is it wrong for someone to steal a loaf of bread if their family's starving? And the answer is kind of, no, it's not. It's morally okay, but it doesn't mean they've not broken the rule about theft. Like, a good reason to break a rule doesn't mean the rule is bent around you. You're not Neo in the rule matrix. You Gollum-looking git.
But is it sourdough bread or is it organic bread, or what kind of bread are we talking about here? That's what matters.
Yeah, just grow it yourself, sourdough, like everyone.
Yeah. That's what we're doing. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. The press briefing they had today, where every single question was about it, and Hancock was it Hancock? Yeah, was answering the questions, and no one got a follow-up question, except for the guy who was not asking questions about Dominic Cummings, which was only one guy.
Yeah.
So I think, and I did look. They said is everybody who got a fixed penalty notice for going somewhere they weren't supposed to during lockdown going to get a refund. And as of the 15th of May, there's not updated numbers yet. 14,000 people had been getting fixed penalty notices, and that's pretty much the only income the government has coming in right now. So they can't afford to send that money back. So I think he's going to go.
Really interesting.
Yeah.
We'll see how it carries on then.
Yes.
So I know that Darren's not a big fan and of Dominic Cummings. Hopefully there are many people in the message boards who are saying bad things about them. Mike says that he's tagged a picture on his TV. Are we on your TV as well? Sweet. We'll do more of this on Thursday.
Ooh.
If you're watching on Thursdays, pop
This
us
is
on the
all we're
TV.
going to do from now on.
And we can probably read the map that's behind you as well. Sweet.
Yeah, I don't have any more. Can't see. Anyway, we're just gonna look at pictures of ourselves on other people's televisions. This has been the dream of our lives. Thank you very much. It's almost like driving up and down the A1.
Yeah, we do it
right.
just for the fame. Just for the fame. Keep
so-
messaging through the oncoming days. We're back Thursday at 9:00. If we're sorted, we'll head out of here. Any other business, Eric?
That's it. Thank you very much for your contributions. Also, if you're looking for other comedy beyond Thursday, Crack Comedy is doing live streamed comedy shows every Sunday at 8:00 in the UK. And this Sunday we have Hal Cruttenden and Tez Ilias on the show, as well as Michael Fabry and Caroline Maybe. And that's a lot of fun. Last Sunday we had Rich Hall, and I was terrified because he was playing music, and also he's almost 70, and I was worried he couldn't turn on his webcam. So that was fun, and we got through that. But yeah, so check that out. And do you have anything else going on, Steve, that you'd like to plug?
No, I'm taking a couple of days off. I'm gonna get out of here now. I'm already not wearing anything on the lower half. This shirt and tie is heading the other way. I might edit 2 clips out of this to put to the internet, but I'm not lifting a finger until Thursday because I'm sick of it.
Good time to go to Bernard Castle for you.
Yeah, well, why not? I think you're allowed to these days. Beautiful.
Exactly.
Excellent. Well, we'll see you on Thursday. Thank you very much.
Thank you. See you next time. Bye.